Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into one of the most polarizing figures of our time to try and understand a really fascinating paradox at the heart of it all.
So we're looking at Elon Musk, right? And he's a figure who is just defined by this huge contradiction. On one hand, you have absolutely industry-shattering innovation, and on the other, just a staggering amount of controversy. Now, this isn't just some story about a CEO. It's really about this fundamental tension between pushing humanity forward and blowing right past the systems that are meant to keep it all in check.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this paradox, we have to start with the engine itself. We have to understand Musk's core philosophy of disruption.
It really all begins with something called first principles thinking. So instead of looking at how rockets or cars have always been built and then just trying to make them a little bit better, this whole approach asks a different question. It asks, what are the absolute physical limits? Like, what do the laws of physics themselves say is even possible? You literally break a product down to its most basic materials, the steel, the lithium, the copper, and then you build it back up from there.
And what's so interesting here is how that big idea, that philosophy, gets turned into a repeatable process. First, you question everything, and you make sure every single requirement has a person's name attached to it, not just some department. But second, and this is the killer move, you delete the part. Musk often says the biggest mistake a smart engineer makes is trying to optimize something that shouldn't even exist. So only after you've deleted everything you possibly can do you then simplify, speed things up, and finally automate.
And the results of this, they kind of speak for themselves. At Tesla, this thinking led them to vertically integrate, basically controlling the whole supply chain, which just slashed their battery costs by 91%. The Gigapress for the Model Y, which stamps these huge parts of the car's body in one piece, took the rear floor from 70 parts down to just 2. That cut the unit cost by 40%. And then at SpaceX, making rockets reusable, which people thought was basically impossible, cut the cost of a launch by more than half.
This quote right here, it really just captures the whole mindset. It's this relentless drive to push past what everyone else thinks is a limit. And that's what gets you these incredible breakthroughs. But what happens when those recommendations include things like corporate governance, or market regulations, or even just social norms?
And, well, that's the other side of the paradox, isn't it? That same high-risk approach creates these huge, measurable problems, the kind you can literally track in court documents and on company balance sheets. So let's start with governance. This chart shows you the percentage of independent directors on a company's board. Now, for your average S&P 500 company, it's about 85%. At Tesla, it's only 33%. A structure like this, it absolutely concentrates power. But it also raises some really serious questions for shareholders about oversight and accountability.
So why does that matter? Well, that lack of independence was a huge factor when a Delaware court struck down this massive CEO pay package. The judge basically ruled that the whole process just wasn't fair to shareholders, which directly connects that governance structure to a multi-billion-dollar legal loss. The controversy also gets into how talent is managed. Just recently, Tesla shareholders actually filed a lawsuit. They're alleging that Musk is taking super valuable and scarce AI engineers and resources from the publicly traded Tesla and moving them over to his private startup, xAI. That's a classic conflict of interest claim. And if we look up into space, this dominance has created concerns about a totally new kind of monopoly. Starlink satellites now take up over half of the available frequency bands in low Earth orbit. That's leading competitors and regulators to ask a pretty fair question. Is this a new monopoly that's basically locking down the final frontier? And of course, the line between a personal brand and corporate performance, well, it's razor thin. A series of controversial political statements coincided almost perfectly with a 45% drop in European orders for Tesla. It's just a really clear demonstration of real-world financial consequences. Okay, but now let's see how all this starts to build. Because the innovation and the controversy, they aren't actually separate stories. They're really two forces building one single audacious system. And honestly, this is where it gets really interesting. The key here is to just stop thinking about Tesla, SpaceX, Starlink, xAI, and Neuralink as individual companies. That's not the right way to look at it. You have to see them as these interlocking pieces of one self-sufficient ecosystem. It's all designed to work like a single, giant, vertically integrated machine. So first up, you have Tesla. It provides the foundation for the whole thing. Mass market energy, a potential mobile robotic workforce with Optimus, and of course, the ground transportation network. Then you have SpaceX. That provides the heavy lift logistics. Think of it like the circulatory system for this machine,
capable of moving all the hardware and infrastructure from the ground up into orbit, and doing it reliably and cheaper over time.
Next, Starlink comes in and creates a private, global communication network. This is the nervous system, right? It connects every car, every robot, every data center, and it does it completely independently of any internet providers we have down here on the ground.
And at the very center of all of it, you have XAI, which is being built as the centralized brain. It's designed to process the insane amounts of data flowing in from all the other parts of the machine, powering the entire operation with one unified intelligence.
And finally, there's Neuralink. The goal here is to create the ultimate user interface. And we're not talking about a keyboard or a touchscreen, we're talking about a direct, high-bandwidth link between the human mind and this enormous technological machine.
So what's the end game here? What's the final ambition of building a system this all-encompassing?
Well, the vision extends to moving our most critical infrastructure, like the data centers that run our whole digital world, into space. I mean, think about it. Down here on Earth, they're limited by power grids, by water for cooling, by national laws. But in orbit, cooling is infinite and it's free. Solar power is constant. And, here's the kicker, you are physically outside the jurisdiction of any single nation.
And this ambition, this idea of a fully autonomous technological ecosystem, it's even baked into the vision for Neuralink. In this context, it's not just a cool sci-fi project, it's a strategic move to solve the problem of AI alignment. It's a way to make sure that humanity can actually keep up with a world that operates at machine speed. And that leaves us with this final, really crucial question. This whole arc of innovation, from first principles all the way to a planetary scale ecosystem, it leads us right here. And it's a question that's not just about one person or one company, it's about the future of power and governance and autonomy in the 21st century.